welcome to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C, with another very special guest here at Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again and for continuing to support our mission on building leaders globally. Thank you to our sponsors, Jose Escobar with the Connected Leaders Academy, Patrick Rude with the Dirty Little Secret Society, as well as Julia Noah with the Breathe Capital Planning. If you want to know anything about our sponsors, our partners, our community, you can go to www.buildingaleadershipmindsetpodcast.com. No, buildingaleadershipmindset.com, and you can check out our podcast there, as well as on YouTube and all that good jazz. We have a very special guest, and she is part of Ladies of Leadership. She has her own community with just amazing individual. She's a coach. She's working in all hard stuff: grief, addiction, trauma, complex family issues. She is the host and co-host of Women's Ministries. She is the one and only she is Terry Lamberson. Yes, that's who she is. We're going to bring her right on. Terry, how are you?
I'm great, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. A pleasure to have you. I know we've been trying to get this together, but it's always in God's timing. And I am glad that you are finally here and we get to highlight you and what you do. Coach Sherry, you were referred to me by Nikki Cruz, who is one of your partners as well. We'll talk about her in a minute because she's absolutely amazing. And she's actually someone that really opened your eyes to some new things, at this time in your life, and has been a great mentor and a coach. And she's also part of Ladies of Leadership. And just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and what is Coach Sherry all about?
Well, it's a very long story because I'm kind of old. So my life has always been what I like to call an e-coupon ride. In the very early days of Disneyland, you didn't buy a ticket and go on whatever ride you wanted to. There were coupons, A, B, C, D, and E. And E was always the thrill rides, and there was never enough of them, and you always had to buy more. So I was brought up in a very large family that I, by and large, was not accepted in for all kinds of crazy reasons. But I always felt that I just kind of sort of did not mesh, did not fit in. There were times when I actually thought that aliens had dropped me in that place with those people. It was such a misfit. But I had a great mom, and I had a dad who was a creative genius. He wasn't around much, but when he was, it was amazing. If you are familiar with Cabbage Patch Dolls, my dad did all the advertising for them, and he that allowed me to have a really incredible life because he did advertising on all the rock and roll radio stations in Los Angeles, California back in the day. So anything that I wanted to go to, I could call his office and end up with backstage passes to everything. I was at the Troubadour the first night that Elton John ever played in America. George Harrison walked right in front of me. So I lived, I did have a lot of friends, and I did have a really wonderful childhood out there. But, it morphed into 2 violent marriages that, the second one particularly, I was delivered out of just by the grace of God because I had an English woman who took care of my kids, and she mentored me. And she mentored me in Christ, and she made me be able to see my worth and to know that I was strong enough and I was smart enough and I was just enough that I could get out of there with a 1 and a 3-year-old and live a good life. And we did for quite a while. Both of my children developed mental health issues in their early teenage years. This is not unusual because when the hormones start, that is often the catalyst that brings out chemical imbalances. So I worked through all that and indeed ended up in a profession in mental health. I worked in a locked mental facility with dual diagnosis patients. And one day, one of them made the psychotic break and tried to kill me. And that led to a couple of years of lawsuits and people not wanting to pay me. And I became homeless with my 17-year-old daughter and her infant daughter. And we spent 7 months living in a shelter in Pennsylvania. And I have to tell you, it was not the worst time of our lives. And after I settled that lawsuit, I was able to reestablish us. And then I asked God to find me a partner, and I hung a bathrobe in my closet and asked God to fill it. And I met this really incredible man on Facebook, and it wasn't Facebook, on a dating site. It was long before Facebook. We couldn't even text back in those days. And so, it's 19 years down the road now. We're both retired. We're really loving our lives. 2022 brought us a season of just tragic losses. The woman who mentored me into being able to leave my husband, another older lady who caused me to become a Christian prodigal about 7 years ago. And lastly, my 19-year-old granddaughter. And I was absolutely broken and had no idea what I was going to do from that point on. But, God, as he always does, I found myself in a community of like-minded Christian women on Facebook. I met Nikki Cruz, and 2 years later, my life is so wonderful that sometimes I have to remind myself to not get too busy, that I miss out on the beauty of what today is.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a story. First, growing up in a family with loving parents, but still a family that didn't quite get us, right? That didn't quite understand who we were, that made us feel like we didn't belong. And when people from the outside look in and start noticing, because I think I heard this story for the first time when you spoke on our platform, and it was so powerful because how many of the listeners here that can relate to that can really say, hey, you know what? I don't know what I did to deserve to be in this family, but I'm here. What's different about me that I can't be a part of, this supposed to be loving connection situation, right? But you got through that. You got through it all. Share with us some of the challenge or setbacks that you faced in that moment that help you grow. Like, what questions were you asking yourself, and at what point did you decide, you know what did you decide after that?
Well, this is how it boiled down for me, is that I had a grandfather that I absolutely adored, and he loved me in a way that, he did. He was amazing. He had 17 grandchildren, and he singled out each one of us for a special thing. That was what we did with Papa, and nobody else did that thing. And the thing he signaled out for me was gardening. And every Sunday we had breakfast at his house. And after breakfast, we would tour the yard, and we would talk about what was doing well and what wasn't, and what needed work. And, and that clicked for me. See, because you can take an ugly plant and you can put it in the right kind of soil and give it the right kind of fertilizer, and it can become something beautiful. And I began to be able to see me kind of in that mold because I was a very awkward child. Okay. I was short. I was thick. I was not very well coordinated. I was always the girl who was picked last for whatever game we were playing in school because I wasn't, I was awkward. Um, and I also began to see as I grew up that, my mom was the black sheep.
Mm.
And so, I began to see that that had a lot to do with my not being able to jive. But as time went on and my grandfather came to me and he kind of asked me to level up and, be a part of it. I would have done anything for him. So I actually attempted to do that. But the more I tried to do that, the more I looked at the things that they were doing and there was a double standard, and there were things that were okay for everybody else but not okay for me. And then I began to see that, the way they not only treated me but the way they treated other people. you know Sometimes God puts people in your life to show you who you don't want to be and how you don't want to behave, and sometimes they're your blood.
Unfortunately.
And yeah, and I began to like see that like my parents' marriage was very bizarre. My father always had a mistress. He drank a little too much. And everybody knew. I mean, it was no secret. And one day I asked Mom, I said, why is this okay? Why do you do this? And she said, because I want you guys to live in this beautiful house, and we drive a Lincoln Continental and you all have nice clothes. And for her, as long as we looked all right, we were all right. And she wanted us to have that lifestyle. And like my brother was like all into it. And I'm like, well, hey, but we live in this house and we drive this nice car and we have all these nice clothes, and nobody's happy at home.
Um,
So that just, it was the 1970s in Los Angeles, California. And I'm proud to tell you that I am an organic original 70s Los Angeles, California flower child. And all that I saw actually brought that, non-materialistic, be kind, do it as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. That's who I was. That's who God made me. And everything that they did actually pushed me more and more into being the person that I was, that they didn't want me to be.
mm, mm, yeah. Wow. But you had your grandfather, and I love that you said that as you observed and you decided to pick the things that you liked, the things that were you, and the absolute things you did not want to be. That's important. That's important for us to know that we have that choice, that power to be able to choose what we don't want to adopt as our day-to-day core values, core um beliefs. And we just got off our 5-day masterclass, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we dug into a lot of that, and that's where I got to learn a lot more about you, these stories, and how you got through them, and just knowing where your headspace is right now. You said it's been a long time. You've lived a long life so far, right? We still have more to go, and we're not done, and you have so many things going on. And I just love your heart, where it comes from, and just knowing that, shoot, life happens and it doesn't happen as we picture it, right? Some things look good on the outside, but on the inside, it's something totally different. So, you also said, I'm trying to you also said that you were a flower child, right? First of all, I want you to definitely talk about Jesus Love Hippie Chicks. I love that. That's one of your communities. Where was that inspired? Do you feel like, was that a place, or is that a place where um, individuals could come to be inclusive, to just know that Jesus loved you? Like, what? How did that all come about, love?
It came about kind of like this. After my mom died, and I was so lost, and I picked up every single half done Bible study in my house. I don't know how many you have, but I had a couple notebooks full. And I decided that I just had to fill myself with everything God based, everything Christ based, because I was I was at the end of myself. You know, there I always knew that that was going to be a real, that was going to be one of the Goliaths in my life. And I could never have imagined how bad it could be, but it was bad. And my husband was working away from home, so he was only home on the weekends. I was alone all week. And the pandemic was just starting, so I had to like turn off the. I couldn't watch TV almost at all because I have fibromyalgia. I don't have a good immune system, and there was just too much fear there. So I was part of a community where we were reading the Bible cover to cover, and God just laid it on my heart that I needed to lead a group of women through this study. And I didn't have a clue how to do any of it. I didn't know how to open up a Facebook group. I didn't know how to do anything. And I was in another online community called Hippie Nation. And I began to talk to these women there, and I discovered that so many of them felt that because of certain things they do or certain things that they did, that they were unacceptable to God. And I know nothing makes you unacceptable to God except you. Okay. He's willing to meet you wherever you are. You just have to be open to the experience. So I went to the woman that I ran Hippie Nation with, and I said, can you help me open up a group? I want to lead these women through this Bible study. And I will tell you that in 2 or 3 months, I had 1,400 women in this group. And I ended up losing that group through a hostile takeover.
Oh.
And here comes my coach, Nikki Cruz. And I mean, I wasn't angry about it because I knew God blessed me there and God would bless me someplace else. And I sent a message to my coach saying I'm blocked and banned out of my group. And I was never mad for a second, and it's been over a year, and my husband's trying to figure out still why I wasn't ranting and raving, but it just didn't happen. And Nikki said, "So what are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to breathe for a little bit here." And she said, "No, you're not. We're opening you up another group right now." And so Jesus Loves Hippie Chicks was developed right then and there. It was me and Nikki and Kim Marie Murray. I call us the Three Musketeers. And and it was there. And I mean, 3 weeks ago, we hit 700 people, and today we're at 781. And I am running a chronological read through the Bible study in that group. I do a video every day talking about all kinds of things: authenticity, loss, how to get yourself together. I have a woman who reads a devotional and Bible verses and then gives you her take on it. I have another woman who was raised in a Walton-esque type atmosphere, and she does a Bible verse every day and relates it back to her childhood and then brings it back into the modern day. I have Hope Redeemed, who the Holy Spirit just speaks through her, and she gives a minute every single day, and to think that, I spearhead something, that I have all these people who contribute to it every single day. This is so next level to the group that I lost. And it's just one of the joys of my life, because one day I started thinking about all the time I waste mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, and what if I could take that time and use it to work for the Lord?
Mm.
And so that's what I do.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about Nikki Cruz. And I'm also in your group. And I'm always looking in there and seeing what's going on. And to just know that you can wake up every morning and have the word guide you throughout your day. And the greatest thing about it is you can go back and watch it again when people take you off your path, right? When they kind of try to knock you off the road for whatever reason, or just life happens, you can always go back and it's there. And it just reminds you how important it is to really work on whatever it is that your faith growth, right? Whatever that looks like for you. So totally awesome. But let's go back to how you and Nikki met, because I love your story about the time that you were in your life and how important it is that God brings you the right people at the right time.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. So I met Nikki in this other community on Facebook, and it was right in the middle of that season of loss. I think my granddaughter had been gone. Actually, today is the 6th, and this is the 2nd year anniversary of the day we started moving into our new house. And so we had just buried Willow the week before.
Wow.
And I was pushing. There was a mix-up at the medical examiner's office. So even though her services had been 2 weeks prior, we didn't actually receive her back until 2 weeks after. So I was driving the people building this house hard, because my family needed the positive of moving us into this house. We needed something positive to focus our energy on. And, God's timing, everything was coming together right at that time. So, so I was in the thick of it. And I was sharing about it one night in this community. And actually, I shared about it on and off for any number of weeks. And Nikki was one of only 2 people who came into my messenger and, would just say things like, I'm thinking of you today. God loves you. Or she would record a prayer, or she would be like, how can I pray for you today? So when she announced her first coaching program, I was front and center, and I didn't even know what it meant. I had no clue what coaching with Nikki Cruz could possibly be all about, but Nikki Cruz is the God-inspired joy junkie, and she will help you find joy irregardless of your circumstances. And that's exactly what she did. And as a matter of fact, when I called her and she said, "Oh, so you want to do my next challenge?" I said, "No, I want to do one-on-one coaching with you." So I was her first ever one-on-one coaching client. It's 2 years later, and I'm still coaching with her because it's not just that she taught me how to find joy. Um, she taught me how to live in my God-given purpose. And God started speaking to me, and he started telling me what my purpose was. And 4 months after Willow passed away, I'm walking my dog in the yard one morning, and I hear him clear as day say, "You are going to help people through grief and loss." And I started to laugh. And I said, "Lord, I'm 4 months in. What could I possibly have to say to anybody?" But he began to give me the things to say.
Mm.
And I began to see that she was gone from our sight. But all the love that she had for us and all the love that we have for her is here. And that we could find ways to constantly bring her legacy into focus and celebrate her every day, every birthday, every, Christmas. She is front and center because we're all running around like crazy people trying to find gifts, right? This past Christmas, my son-in-law had made for my daughter a Willow Funko Pop. Did you know that you could custom design Funko Pops? So here was this Funko Pop Willow with her crazy big hairy tarantula eyelashes and her itty bitty little Coach bag. I found these little bracelets, and they say her name in Hebrew.
Mm.
And me and my daughter, and we both have one. So we find all kinds of ways. Oh, we had family pictures taken, and my daughter has a pony that was made out of one of Willow's shirts. So the pony is in almost all of these pictures, because that's how we bring her in. And so I now have that to give to other people, because I now know that if God could have healed her here, he would have. But I know that the kind of mental illness that she suffered from was not going to allow for that. Sometimes heaven is the only cure for what we have. And I mean, isn't heaven on your bucket list?
Absolutely.
Because it's on mine. Right. Because it's on mine. Okay. Whenever it happens, Lord, it's going to be all good. Right. And so I listened to this child cry for countless hours because she just wanted to be a person who doesn't have a mental illness. And now she is. It's all good for her. It's all good for her. And she's around. I have a cat that she brought into my house because she found him in the yard. And sometimes this cat will just go screaming bonkers. And she used to bedevil this cat. She used to
you bring him in. Oh.
And when he goes really bonkers, I will look up and say, "Willow, leave the cat alone." And he stops.
Oh.
So
she's just telling you, "Hi, I'm here." Oh my God.
The first Mother's Day without her, my son-in-law sends me a picture because we both planted willow trees, right? So the first Mother's Day, he sends me a picture of a cardinal in their willow tree, and cardinals are always thought to be visits from heaven. So I grab my phone, I walk to my window, there's a cardinal in my willow tree. And
Oh,
I snapped a picture and I said, she making the rounds, and I sent it back.
oh, that is amazing. I just love as you guys continue to grow because we're the ones that suffer with it, right? We're the ones left behind. Like, oh my God, we want their presence, we need their presence. But what we have to understand in grief, you said it 100,000% on point that God had her healing there, right? He didn't want her to suffer anymore for whatever reason, whatever she went through. I feel the same way about my brother. Would I love to have him here with me today? Absolutely. To laugh, to just, hang out. Absolutely. And many of those in our family that we lost, my father-in-law during COVID as well, not from COVID, but during COVID. And then seeing my friends lose loved ones back to back. That's just so hard. But what pains me is how do we get back? How do we continue to live after that? We have to. I just need to emphasize that our purpose is still in play when we
Yeah.
lose those around us. And we have to still stand in our purpose. And how after at what point did you say, okay, I'm doing this? And you didn't know what coaching was, but let me tell you, that's a Coach Terry right there that I see on your name. And I didn't come into this entrepreneurial space to be a coach either. I came to speak. I just wanted to talk, empower, and just pour my love into everyone. And it just falls in our laps. And we're like, okay, what do we do with it? So how did you embrace when Nikki told you, "Oh, you're going to coach. We're going to put something together and you're going to do it." How did you feel? Did you believe that you can do it? What were some of the limiting beliefs and what actually switched your mind to say, "I'm ready"?
I began to see, because I'm at a stage of life where I have more years in the rear view mirror than I have in front of me. And that is a very unique perspective, right? Um, and one of the things that I began to see is, Willow and I would have hours worth of conversations where she would tell me about what was going on in high school life, and you can imagine what it was. And I would give her the kingdom response, you know. And when we would wrap the conversations up, she would say to me, Nunu, you should preach. And I would laugh. I thought that was the most ridiculous notion. Hippie bohemian me, who is going to want to hear some gray old hippie talk about Jesus? But the fact of the matter is that actually she was preparing me,
Mm.
and now I do preach, and I preach because of her.
Mm.
If she was a surprise baptism on a church Sunday,
Mm.
because we hadn't been at this church long, and the way that they baptize is in a horse trough.
Okay.
Now, we are inveterate horsewomen. I was a horsewoman all my life. I passed it to my daughter. She passed it to my granddaughter. And when she saw that there was a horse trough that they were dunking people in, she turned around and said to me, "This is me.
Mm.
This is me." And, we got to see her accept Jesus as her Savior and take the plunge. And the day she died, I got a thing in Messenger, and it was from the pastor that had baptized her. And he had pulled this horse trough out of storage because everybody that got baptized in this horse trough signed their name and put the date on the side of the trough with a Sharpie. So the day she passed, I got a picture of her signature in
Mm,
Messenger. And all he said was, never question where she is.
mm,
You know, God, God set us up. I mean, I can look at the
mm,
7 years leading up to her passing and everything that God did to prepare me for
mm,
that, because my mom was gone, right? I come from the Jewish tradition. We are a very matriarchal society. And that morning, when I heard of her loss, and
mm,
we're driving down to be with her, and I am hysterical. And we get 4 blocks away from their house, and my husband pulls the truck over. And he turned to face me and he put his hand on my leg and he said, now you have to stop. Once she's in your arms, you can fall apart.
mhm,
But you can't walk in this house like that because she's going to look at you, Mom, and she's going to need you to guide her because you know how to do all this. You know the right way to have this done.
mm,
And she is not going to have the she's not going to have the head for it.
mhm,
And yeah, it was probably the hardest thing I ever did, but it was a privilege,
mm,
because from 2020 to 2021, my daughter and I did not speak.
wow.
I knew she was mad. I could have probably guessed a couple of reasons why,
Mhm,
but she's in her 30s. If you can't walk in my back door and say, Mom, let's make a cup of coffee, we need to chat, I'm not going to chase you down. Oh, honey, what's the matter? We're too grown for that, right? And to have it turn around, and we never ever spoke of what the problem was. There was no reason to, you know. When your daughter calls you up and says, "Mom, are you sitting down?" It doesn't matter what comes out of her mouth next. Your mom, you know, and I had to let her be mom, and I had to be her mom,
mhm,
and and guide us all through this.
mm.
And if everything that hadn't happened the 7 years prior to that, I would have made a miserable mess out of it. But
Mhm.
even in my mess, God gave me what I needed.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't see it that way. You got me emotional as soon as you said those words. Don't question God where she's at, right? Um,
Don't question God.
there's so many times we feel guilty. We feel like we didn't do enough, like we weren't there, like we're responsible, and all this stuff. And it's just amazing how you were able to identify at that point that this is what she's been gearing me up for, so that I can lay her to rest in this way. So I just want to commend you. I just want to give my hat off to you because that must have been tough. Being there on the other side as a sibling, not as a parent, or as a grandparent, it was still hard, because now I became the bigger sister because I was younger sister. I now have to take care of my parents. I now have to step in these roles that I didn't expect to at this age, at this time in my life, because I thought, we were never prepared for this. And it's so important for us to have these conversations, and how do we prep for these things. Now, share a little bit about how do you coach individuals through this process? What are some of the biggest things you have noticed? Just common things that people are really dealing with at, finding this in their life, like they're losing someone with grief and some of these other addictions and things like that that you help. Like, what is your just
You
yeah.
know, doing what I do is a really super individual thing. It's not like I have a written coaching program and, on day one we're doing this and on day five we're doing this, because these areas don't work that way. Especially in the beginning, you're riding that emotional roller coaster. I like to talk about it as being hit by the grief tsunami, and every once in a while, it throws you back up on the beach and you're grasping for handfuls of sand, and right, and there's no time period. There's no time period uh, uh, in those very early days. There's not much you can do except listen, uh, make some really, really easy suggestions. I mean, there are things that people don't know. I mean, what do we do now? How do we get a death certificate? How do we talk about, insurance and funeral arrangements? And we need to do a GoFundMe, and we need this, that, and the other thing. So, you really have to meet people where they're at. And as time goes on, it's really amazing how people all of a sudden realize that there is something more. There is life after this, and legacy versus loss is just,
Mhm.
so important. If you get stuck in the loss of it, I talked to a lady not too long ago, and they hadn't celebrated Christmas for 7 years because their son had died. And I was like, where your son is, it's Christmas every single day. And how do you think he would feel that you weren't enjoying anything because he's in paradise? I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
Right? Um, I like to say to people, hey, this might be hard to hear. So if you don't want to hear it, just let me know. We'll talk about it some other time,
Mhm.
right? Because people don't like to hear that their loved ones are in a better place. But
Yeah.
truly, you know, it is all good for them. It is all good for them. It's the question is that how do we, and you you don't move past them, but you do move forward,
Absolutely.
and they are there.
And you take them right with you.
And you take them
Absolutely.
right with.
Every step of the way. Celebrating life is important for each and every one of us, whether we're all together, or as the years go by, we know that life is a life journey, right? It's a circle of life, and we don't know what that time frame looks like for each one of us. We just know we have an expiration date. I don't want to know what that is, but I'm ready for it at any time, right? That's what we have to get prepared for, to be ready for it at any time and make sure that we put things in place that need to happen in order for the ones that we leave behind, when we're gone, that they're set, right? These are all different things. And I am glad that you said that your coaching program has no time, because you're absolutely right. It has no time. It's totally tailored for each individual person, because we don't know at what level. And that goes with mostly, it should go with mostly any coaching. And I love that you have taken your mess, your experiences, everything that you've been through, and you are serving. You are serving at the level that you are serving, that from your heart, and that you are able to help guide someone through a path of grief. Because we don't know what that time looks like. For me, it took me about 6 months to really realize that life is too short after I lost my brother. Life is too short. Then it took me another 2 years to start saying, okay, start putting things in place. What can I do for myself to make life easier for others and help them out and know that life is worth living? Life is worth, you know, doing the things that we need to do for it. And you do that. And, complex family issues, who doesn't have that? Who doesn't have trauma? Like, we're all going through some stuff. And this is why God laid that coaching idea into someone else to show you that you can do it. You can take your experiences and you can bless many.
And Nikki, here's the whole thing. I've worked in mental health. I love working one-on-one with people. And I mean, all my life, at one point in my life, right before my eldest daughter had her first mental health crisis, I actually had gone back to school. I wanted to get my counseling degree. And I mean, look what God has put together here. I'm in this stage of my life, and now everything that I've been through, I now have purpose from that pain, right? And I not only have helped myself because I took the steps that I took, because I really opened myself to what God had for me, and I was in communities where he could place the right people in front of me. And look, I'm not the kind of person who would travel every weekend to a different convention to I mean, I love to speak, and it's a privilege to be asked to do so. But I mean, travel around twice a month or, and do that. No, that's not me. So, for such a time as this, where I can jump on a Zoom call, where I can invite you into my community. When you were talking earlier about, you can look back on this, that, and the other thing, all of my videos from my group, Jesus Loves Hippie Chicks, are archived on my YouTube channel, which is called The Comeback with Terry Lambertson. So you can go back through there. I mean, there's over a year's worth of videos there, and you can just scroll through the titles, and and I mean, they're all super short, anywhere from a minute to the longest ones are maybe 3-4 minutes, because my girls like to jump in, hear something, grab what they need from it, and shoosh, on their way. Where you really could find something that could give you a handle, and you could go back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And legacy, it's all about leaving this legacy, whatever legacy you want to leave behind, and how you want to be remembered as. What do you want people to say once you're gone with the work that you're doing, right? Just all good stuff, all good stuff. But I do,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I hope that at the end, you know, somebody says, she was kind, she laughed, she loved Jesus, she loved her family.
Love it. I love it. So you have a grandbaby, right?
You have a grandbaby. Yeah, Willow now has a baby brother. And it's such a privilege and a pleasure for me to care for him either 2 or 3 days every other week. He's being raised by both sets of grandparents. Such a beautiful thing. And we take him to like classes and stuff, so he gets to be with other kids. He's 13 months old. Day before yesterday, he was tapping my Swiffer on my storm door, like, gah, gah, gah. And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Johnson,
Mhm.
If you break my storm door, you're not getting a pony for Christmas."
Mm.
And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Ha, ha."
He was, he's like, that's a good one, Grandma. I
Ah,
love that.
the joy of all of our lives. I can't tell you, you know, when he gets here very early in the morning, and when my husband wakes up, he runs to him, and my husband picks him up, and he lays his head down on his shoulder, and I just watch this man melt. Okay, we didn't get to do any babies together because we were in our mid 40s when we got
Mhm.
together, but we get to we get to help raise this baby together. And, you know, there's no sweeter time in your life.
That's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about how do you balance a leader? How do you balance being a leader in your professional life with other aspects such as family and personal interests, right? Like, how do you put that all together? Because you are very non negotiable. This is my time that I have for family, and this is my time I have for business. And I love, love, love that about your dedication to how you're going to live your day. And that's, we all have the power to do that. So tell us, how do you balance all that out?
You know, family is first for me. It really is. One of the things that happened in our family when Willow left us is we all realized, you know, how finite time can be. Time is a thief, friends. You
Mhm.
know, it really is. You don't know, you know, and I just did a video the other day that, you know, when you speak to the people that you love, speak to them as if this might be the last conversation, because we truly don't, you know. And I'm not being fatalistic. You know,
Yeah.
this, you know, she taught us that.
Yeah.
She absolutely at when she left us, she was on her way back into a program. We had no idea. We were full of hope at that point. You know, so you don't know. So family is absolutely first for me. And like on the days that I have Bryson, I may listen to the Wednesday Zoom, but you're probably not going to hear me speak, and you're not going to see me on camera because I'm chasing a 13-month-old.
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, so my calendar is just, you know, I utilize my early morning hours because I am an early bird, and thankfully my husband is a night owl. So he's in bed until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up between 5:30 and 6. I can get a lot done before he
That's
crawls out, you know? Thank you. See, God sets it up so perfectly. You know, if you take a look at your life and you take about, you know, and you really think about, okay, this and this and this, okay. So it's like, you know, do I have Thursday available every week? No, I don't, because every other Thursday I have him, you know. But I on any day, you know, there is a period of time that I have to give somebody. You
Mhm.
know, I tell my people, send me a messenger, and, you know that I will get back to you. It might not be in an hour. You know, if you really, something really bad happened, you know, message me 911 and I'll put you on my hot priority list. Like maybe when my husband comes in for breakfast and Bryson is climbing all over him, eating half, I can talk to you for a little bit during there. You know, you have to know yourself first, and you have to know what is important to you. You know, I start off every morning in my group. I listen to all of my presenters first thing because they're speaking the word, you know. I I read the Bible every single morning because I'm doing our cover to cover chronological study. So whatever I put up for the verses that day, I'm I'm doing that. If Bryson isn't here, I'm putting on the praise and worship music, and I'm cleaning my kitchen for 45 minutes. Whatever it is, you have to know you, and you can be creative. You can be creative.
Absolutely. I again, it's all about what is our priority? What do we want the end result to be, the lifestyle to look like, and plug in what needs to happen? It's really as simple as that. We make it bigger than what it is, we make it complicated. We're like, oh, all these other scenarios. No, it's point blank. You have the power. Will that shift? Absolutely. But put a plan in place at least. And there's times where you can move things around. I think we're living in a time right now, especially in this space, that we are all understanding that life happens and we have to adjust. And as long as you have built those relationships that you are really nurturing and putting together, and you have that support system, you're not going to have to work at like crazy amount of time. Like you can get so much done, and we share the same timeline. Like my spouse, she's up at 10:30 as well, so I'm good from 6 to that time, and then I kind of take my break at noon, and then I jump back at it in the evening. That's just how it is. You have the power to do that. I love what you're doing, Terry. You have been absolutely amazing. You have dropped so much inspiration and nuggets here. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find you? And what are you working on right now?
Well, I'm working on just keeping everything that I've got up in the air right now. I'm always available to speak. So, I never know what somebody's going to ask me to speak on. So I've got a couple of books in process. The first one that I really want to get out is a handbook for grandparents who lose their grandchild, because there are no resources out there. And nobody can give you resources like somebody who, is on the other side. So I definitely want to get that done. I have a bunch of letters that Mom left me that I want to publish. You can find me on Facebook, Terry Lambertson. You can find me at Jesus Loves Hippie Chicks on Facebook. You can, I want to invite you to just send me a message in Messenger. I'd love to just get together and, chat with you and, see where we plug in. And also on my YouTube channel, which is The Comeback with Terry Lambertson.
Yes, and we'll definitely have all those links in the show notes for sure. Again, thank you so much, Terry, for just being who you are. I believe that you have just that raw heart of life is just beautiful. Jesus is amazing. Let's just get it done. Let's get through the muck. Things are going to happen, but we can overcome and we can get through it all. I just love your vibe and what you bring to the table. You are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for speaking on our stage. And
thank you so much, Nikki. Really, thank you.
You are welcome. Thrilled. And this is true, like from the heart. When I asked you to say, hey, let's speak at our Kickstart Online Business Mindset event, I knew that was the platform for our women to get to know you and your heart. And let me tell you, you move that room. So it was an absolute pleasure having you as a speaker there. So if you're looking for a keynote, definitely connect with Coach Terry. If you're going through some stuff right now, definitely connect with Coach Terry. Facebook will have the show notes. You might want to watch this on repeat, because what you said to us was the reminders that we already know, or we have been told before, but we need to be reminded that it's okay to live life, and it's okay to get through and take that loss and that grief and that mess on that journey with you to healing in the most positive light. So thank you again for tuning in. Coach Terry, I'm going to give you the last minute or so. If you just want to share, what do you want to leave our audience with?
Life as a woman on this planet is not always kind. And, you don't live this life and not hit some kind of trauma, some kind of bump in the road, some kind of loss, some kind of, somebody who has an addiction. It's just a part of our everyday life. And, I just want you to know that, irregardless of what you've been through, because I've been through just about all of it, that, there really is, life can be beautiful and seasons change. And, what I have found is that, over time, when you see God redeem you out of one situation and another situation and another situation and another situation, you come to you get to the point where your valleys aren't so low, because you know that it's in the valley that you level up. And even though your valleys don't get any deeper, your mountaintops are always higher. If you could have told me 21 years ago, when I was living in a homeless shelter, that today I would live in a 2-year-old house that we built, I I I would have laughed at you. But nothing is too big for God, and you are enough, and you're worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Coach Terry. There you have it. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. Have a great day. Make it count. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Talk to you soon.